So I want to stay here for a moment, if you don't mind, right? Because I think now is the time to introduce the emotional guidance scale and process, and not only understand that it takes sometimes being flat on your back.
Right.
It takes having the wind knocked out of you.
Yeah.
It takes, because in not to get off topic, but in the Switch On program, one of the things we talk to people about is you got to get to the point where you accept where you are,
Right.
or any direction that I give you won't make a difference.
That's exactly
If
right.
I'm looking at a map and I can't see where I am on that map,
Right.
there's no opportunity and no directions are going to be sufficient for me. So I think what happened was, if it sounds to me, if I'm hearing you correctly, is you finally accepted where you were.
Yes.
And it's allowed you to start looking for real directions how to get to where you wanted to be.
That's exactly right.
Does that sound right?
And that's part of the path for this is recognizing I am where I am.
Mm-hmm.
It is what it is. I'm not sending her back. So now what? And from that place of starting to look for a better feeling thought, you're already from that moment working yourself up
So I don't want to
the
stop you. I
emotional
don't want to
scale.
stop you. I want to stop you. Let's talk about the emotional guidance scale right now, while everybody's hearing more about where you were and how you started there, because I think this is what people need to know.
Yeah.
When people are truly desperate, when they're truly struggling, either on their way down, at the bottom on their way up, or stuck at the bottom with no end, no beginning in sight. They can't
Right.
figure out where to get
Yes.
that first piece of it.
Right.
I think understanding this is really important. Would you mind sharing the emotional guidance scale concept? And then we could ask maybe a few more questions to kind of help people understand what it is, because I believe personally, the more this concept is shared, the more people that are aware of this,
Right.
the more easily not just autism, is addressed with a different perspective, and there's hope and there's promise in the world and opportunity, but everything is.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
please, if you do us the honor, just please share, because honestly, folks, this is probably one of the most powerful concepts I have had the privilege to be introduced to in my lifetime. And for me, it has made such a dramatic difference. I send my employees to hear about it. Right. When I can. We discuss it every day when we're having discussions in my offices. So I wanted you to share, if you will, what is the emotional guidance scale? Um, what does it mean? And how do you use it, if you will? Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right.
So the emotional guidance scale, we didn't create it. It was a tool that I used by one of the authors that I follow, one of the teachers. And what we did was we kind of adopted it to really create the emotional awareness. And I used it early on just to say, where am I at on this emotional scale? Because first of all, you have to be aware of where you're at.
Yeah.
Secondly is you have to identify what you want to create in your life. Mm-hmm. So you have to know that what you want to create is usually up the emotional scale, right? So you go anywhere from the lowest vibration, the lowest emotion is fear, grief, and you're starting at this baseline and you work yourself up the scale. Okay. You could hit blame, you could hit anger, right, with your situation, still kind of moving up. You could start now getting into the yellow zone, which is more neutral, right? Mm-hmm. You're feeling, and by the way, we did name the zones.
Yes.
Red, yellow, more neutral. It's like, okay, I'm kind of okay. I'm not feeling awesome. I may be, a little pessimistic, or I may be just kind of bored. That's an emotion that's right there in the middle. All the way up, now you're working yourself up into the green scale, where now you start becoming hopeful. You start having positive expectations of what could happen. You start being in a place of joy and appreciation for your life. Highest vibrations, joy and appreciation. So looking at all the emotions, first of all, just understanding where we're at and setting an intention to how do I get
where you want to be,
to where I want to be over here. And as I get up the emotional scale, I can start seeing more clearly what I want. And the key is to always come from a place of, okay, I know what I don't want. Mm-hmm. I know this situation is not what I want. So now what do I want? And it's shifting to what it is that you want and starting to really focus on the emotions of how you want to feel, right? So if you're saying, hey, today I'm in a place of fear about my child. How do I work myself up to a place of hope, even, right? Hope, optimism, right?
So here's a concept that I deal with. If I create a problem in my own mind, I created it as a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about being in the red, that's the way it comes to me is I'm in a moment of despair, and now I'm focused on the moment of despair.
Right.
I look at the problem.
Yeah.
And when I create it that way in my mind, it obviously has no solution. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
When I start to create a situation as a solution, get more neutral at least,
Right.
I accept the fact that there is a positive way to look at this and possibly a negative way to look at this. I may not just be ready to look at it right now.
That's right.
Or I might not be able to see that way out. I know where I am, and I'm not necessarily uncomfortable where I am, and I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm at least in a situation where I realize there is more than one way to look at this.
Right.
And then ultimately it is, hey, I'm looking at this situation as I'm hopeful about the situation. Mm-hmm. And I start to see opportunity in where I'm in. I know where I am,
right,
but I start to see that there is opportunity if I'm willing to even just take a turn to look a different direction,
right,
even if I can't move yet.
Yep.
I can start by looking in that direction. And now I'm dealing with opportunities or solutions that are green solutions as opposed to facing the opposite direction. And I'm looking towards the red solutions. And it kind of keeps me where I've been. It moves me, at least it moves me off of neutral. Could you give us an example of how you've used this either in your organization or in some of the things you've done with your organization where this has become helpful? How have you applied this concept in some of the resources you created for autism shifts?
Well, I tell you, we use it on a daily basis, on a regular basis. For example, when we encounter something that we need to do as a business, I'll take, for example, our student training,
Okay.
right? We already know that young adults with autism, right? They some of them may come into the in the red zone, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you're in the red zone, you're only looking at the problem, right? And the problem is maybe I don't have a job, I don't have opportunities, the unemployment rate doesn't look that good. So right now you're in a state of looking at your situation and not feeling good about it, not seeing any way out of that because you're only looking at the problem, right? So our goal through that process is to start creating the space where I can move up to a better feeling place and start looking at what I want. So the way we use it is, for example, to create any of our programs, we start with the end in mind. Okay, so we start looking at this program that we want to create and that we have created. And the first thing we do is say, why do we want to do this? What is it that we want to accomplish with this? Well, the solution, the green zone, says we want to create young adults that are really empowered, that really see what they want in their life, what they're being called to, and really empowered now to create that, right? So that's going from what I don't want, which is lack of employment, and what we see in our young adults is lack of even vision for what their life could be. And the end result is, how do I create this life that I want, right? And that's what we take our students through. So for us, it was the same thing. What do we want to create here as a program? When we talked about our nonprofit, what is the vision of what we want to create? And that was one component of it. We want to see young adults living their life on purpose, using their unique talents and abilities, doing what they want to do, and being able to be a part of creating that. Right? Okay. So that's how you use the tool. You go from what's the problem? I'm looking at the problem. This is not happening. But now how do I start looking at what do I want to happen? And creating that pathway. So you start with that, but you also start with what emotions do I want to feel? Okay.
Gotcha.
And for me, it became, wow, what emotions do I feel when I see all these young adults getting into the workplace and living their life on purpose? So as a team, we came up with, what are the words
Right.
that we feel when that happens? You almost have to act as if that thing had already happened, because we want what we want because of how we want to feel.
So, Vicky, first of all, I can't tell you how happy I am to have you here again, and have you here, and to be having this conversation and be able to share what I know about you with other people and hear it directly from you. I get to tell you people about you all the time, but now people get to hear it directly from you, and I think people need to hear that. So, you and I came together specifically working on a particular project,
Right.
which was the Employment Ready program.
Correct.
So, would you please share with everyone uh, information about the Employment Ready program, what it is, what its purpose is,
Right.
and kind of how you realized this was something that needed to be done?
Right. Well, Arlo, the Autism Employment Ready program came because of my experience with the starting up Artistas Cafe. Okay, the Artistas Cafe program was designed to help young adults become baristas.
Okay.
Okay, and so Autism Shifts was the training partner for that. And we were teaching them job skills, the job skills to become a barista, right? When that's how to make an espresso beverage, how to make a smoothie, how to take care of our customers, our guests. And what I found through that process is the job skills is the easy part. Okay. Because if you've got a person aligned to doing the job and has the job skills, the knowledge to learn those job skills, then you have a match right there. But what I found with our population, the autism population, is that these soft skills, this, which I break up into two components. One of them is a self discovery process.
Mm-hmm.
It's saying, hey, who am I? What is autism? Because oftentimes our young adults with autism don't even know what the diagnosis is. What is autism? How does autism affect me? And what tools do I need to overcome some of those challenges so that I can get into the workplace, right? That's where they learn tools like how to get in the green zone, how to identify some old habits of thoughts and create some new habits of thought. It's really being empowered, for them to be empowered to really care for their own emotional, mental, physical. Sometimes it's, hey, what I'm doing with my body, could be nutrition. It's a big component of that. How do I get my mental state in a place that's ready for being out in the world? All right, sensory, sometimes it's sensory tools. So there's all of these components that they really need the tools to be able to know how to manage those. Second part of it is understanding the business environment, right? They never give us a book on that. But particular people with autism that might have some of the, sensory communication challenges, social challenges, don't really understand what is the right thing to do in this environment. How do I understand how I fit into this environment? How do I understand how to create relationships in this environment, right? So all the things that they expect you to know going into the business environment, oftentimes our population doesn't know that, or maybe it's not easy for them to learn that without somebody really teaching them about it. And that's what we're doing. So the job skills are important, but all of these skills I find are what keeping our population from really either being employed or being able to stay successfully employed.